Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Truly, truly, how good it is to be together with you here in the room, with you who are watching online, to be making one sacred community together. If you're joining us online this Shabbat, we ask that you wish everyone Shabbat Shalom, introduce yourself in the chat. We want to know who's praying with us. And for those of you here in the room, we are thrilled to see so many young faces as this is our first Helfman Shabbat of the year. We have lots of religious school students here. We are thrilled to get to celebrate Shabbat with people of all ages. And so in honor of this first Helfman Shabbat, we are going to invite up Stephanie Carlson, our Director of Congregational Learning, to lead us in the lighting of Shabbat candles, which begins on page 3 in the blue books in front of you.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So we now turn all the way to the back of our books to page 358. We are in this special month of Elul, the Hebrew month. That is the last month of 5782 as we get close to Rosh Hashanah and welcoming 5783. And so in this month of Elul, it's a time for preparation, kind of getting ourselves ready for some of those heavy themes that we think about on the high holy days. And so each day of Elul, we're supposed to read or sing this Psalm 27 at the top of the page here. And so we're going to sing these words. We're going to start just on Yai Lai Lai to kind of get this melody in our heads, and then we'll put the words to it. Yai Lai 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 Yai Lai Lai Lai. Adonai, kol yemei chayai, lachazot benoam Adonai, uvaker v'hichalon. Lachazot benoam Adonai, uvaker v'hichalon. Welcome everyone coming in and joining us. We are going to continue with this idea of welcoming as we welcome in our Shabbat bride with the words of Lecha Dodi, which can be found on page 20. We sang verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Lecha Dodi, likrat Allah, B'nei Shabbat, Kabbalat face the entrance as we welcome in the Shabbat bride. And when you hear the words Lecha Dodi, that is your cue to turn around and maybe dance a little. Boi v'shalom ateret bara, gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, toch emunei hamsegula, boi chala, boi chala, lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, lekabela, lecha dodi, likrat kala, penei Shabbat, lekabela.
Since you are already standing, now is a great moment to turn to the people around you and wish them Shabbat Shalom. If you don't know them, please introduce yourselves.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you too, Naomi.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. We are on page 28. Yalalai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yalalai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, lai, yai, lai, lai, lai. Baruchu et Adonai. Baruch Adonai Hamorah, Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam, 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 I want to invite my amazing song leaders, Noah Friesen and Scout Brooks, to help me lead these next prayers. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. There's some moves that go with this. Let's add the moves. Ready? Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Boreom balayla, golel or mipnei choshech, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day
Join me at the top of page 33 as we pray together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
We continue with Ve'ahavta on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך ובטחתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We pray responsively on page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Michamocha, page 40.
Adonai, who is like you?
I love this quote from the Israeli author Ahad Ha'am, which is found on the bottom of page 45, that says that more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. It is true that Shabbat takes work, that we have to remember to set aside time for Shabbat, otherwise it swings by without us even noticing it. But it is also true that if we do that work, Shabbat works on us, that this space leads to spaciousness, that this is a possibility of something more, something new, something holy that we can only build together. We celebrate the great gift that is Shabbat with Vishamru on page 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם. I need your help. Beni, uvein, Bnei Israel. Oti leolam. Veshamru Bnei Israel et HaShabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם. השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. One more time. השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We continue now with the Amidah, which begins on page 46. We invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד, ופי יגיד תהילתך. אדוני, שפתי תפתח. עננה ופי יגיד, ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. We turn to page 57. Yeah, we turn to page 59 after we're done turning to page 57. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Shalom Rav, page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol Shalom, ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha
We take a moment now for the prayers of our hearts for a moment of silent prayer.
Ose shalom bimroma uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael bimru amen. Ose shalom bimroma Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen, amen, amen. We all can come together.
We all can come together,
No matter what the weather.
no matter what the weather.
We'll know peace forever.
We'll know peace forever.
Amen. 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 Ose shalom. Bimroma. Uyase.
Shalom
Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
ve'imru
Amen. 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 Amen.
Scout wrote that, which is awesome. We turn our prayerful attention now to those in our lives and in our community who are in need of healing. We think of those who have the pains and illnesses we know about, and also those who have the pains and illnesses we may never know about. Think of those who struggle with chronic illness and chronic pain, those who struggle with addiction and those in recovery. We think about all of the people who take care of the people who are ill and the strength and the wholeness that they too need. We're thinking this Shabbat of Sarah Astrich, Charlotte Berkowitz, Elaine Betcher, Marcia Block, Ed Brook, David Brockstein, Melba Berman, Eileen Sersansky, Maya Critter, Richard Dana, Leon Finkelstein, Carol Friedman, Marcine S. Goldman, Kenny Goldstein, Chuck Green, Randy Herstein, Christina Howard, Cam Hunter, Richard Jackson, Sarah Janes, Barry Kurtz, Ashley Levine, Lawrence Levy, Betsy Lewis, Magdalene Pessin, Leah Rabelais, Hattie Reese, Arlene Richmond, Bernard Rosenfeld, Shirley Schnoll, Edward Simmons, Roy Smith, Jerry Spencer, Inez Taylor, Lenny Weinberg, Cindy Weiss, Yvonne Zients, Ariella Sharon Bat Yafa Shoshana, Gelka Nechama Bat Leba Chaya, Miriam Bat Yona Avraham Vimini, Rachel Bat Binyamin, Yehoshua Matityahu Ben Yaakov V'Pre V'Chana, and all who are suffering with afflictions of body, mind, and spirit. We offer these words of healing and hope on page 253.
Sheberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishabera imotenu vikor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Couple of announcements for this Shabbat. Tomorrow, immediately following services, we hope you'll join us for our monthly Schmooze and Schmear Bagel Breakfast. Have some coffee, grab a bagel, catch up with friends, old and new, immediately after our 10:30 service. We hope you will watch your mailboxes closely for your High Holy Day packets, which were mailed this week and should be arriving to your homes shortly for all members in good standing in the congregation. We want to let you know that Slichot services are September 17th at 9 p.m. We invite you to join us for an engaging evening starting at 7 p.m., featuring short films and meaningful discussion about the themes that help us to prepare for the High Holy Day season. Delicious movie theater-style snacks will be served. Everyone is welcome, and it is free of charge. And one more fun offering this High Holy Day season, I am offering a shofar blowing class on Sunday, September 18th for people of any age. And you don't even have to have a shofar, because we're going to have some shofars that you can check out from us. And so if you've always wanted to learn how to blow shofar, now is your opportunity to do it. We'll teach you. And then we have a couple of opportunities through the High Holy Days where our shofar blowing squad will get to shofar off their new skills and blow for the congregation as part of our High Holy Days this year. So come and learn on the 18th. This week's Torah portion is Shoftim, or Judges. It's about how Israel will establish a society that is fair and just. There are rules for setting up a judicial system where judges are impartial and the witnesses are faithful. There are rules to ensure that kings do not abuse their power. There are even rules for the just way to engage in warfare. And the Parsha opens with one of the Torah's most famous lines, a thesis statement for the rules that follow. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice shall you pursue. Tzedek is repeated twice for emphasis. And justice is not just something we hope or pray for, it's something elusive that we must pursue. And mixed in with all these rules about a fair society is a whole passage that might seem out of place. The rules against witchcraft. When you come into the land that God is giving you, do not learn to do the repulsive practices of other nations. Let no one be found among you who is an augur, a soothsayer, a diviner, a sorcerer, one who casts spells, one who consults with ghosts or inquires of the dead. In reading this, a number of questions come to mind. Of course, one might ask, what does all this have to do with creating a just society, with tzedek, tzedek tirdof? But when I read this, an even more urgent question comes immediately to my mind. If Jews are commanded to distance themselves from sorcery and witchcraft, then can a Jew like Harry Potter? If there is any question that the witches and wizards of Harry Potter would be covered by this commandment, one need only to look at the Rashi on the verse where he defines a diviner as, quote, someone who holds a stick and consults it. It's hard not to picture Harry, Ron, and Hermione casting spells with their wands when you read that. I mean, there's even a whole class at Hogwarts about divination, and now I'm thinking to myself, should I not be reading this stuff? Because Harry Potter was, for a long time, a pretty big part of my identity. I grew up in the height of the Harry Potter craze. I remember lining up before midnight so that I could be amongst the first to buy book 4. I was a counselor at camp the summer that book 5 dropped, and it was banned at summer camp because nobody would leave their cabins otherwise. I also recall that we told the kids we got an advance copy and that Harry died, which in retrospect was very mean. It's a good thing the High Holy Days are coming up. When books 6 and 7 came out, I remember endless debates about Horcruxes and Snape's allegiances on my college campus. None of this is particularly unique for someone of my generation, but my fandom went a little bit further than that. When I went to pick out cufflinks for this evening, I had multiple Harry Potter options to choose from. I went with my golden snitches, if you're wondering. This is a risky thing to admit, but at more than one Comic-Con, I have cosplayed as Anthony Goldstein, the only canonically Jewish character at Hogwarts. When we decorated my first daughter's nursery, it was Harry Potter themed. Instead of a mobile, we had winged keys flying above her head. Annie's and my wands are displayed above her crib, ready for us to run in and defend her in the unlikely event of a dark wizard attack. Annie and I are an intermarriage. I'm a Gryffindor, she's a Hufflepuff. So all 4 house banners hang in Ella's room. It's pretty epic. But now I'm reading all this stuff in Deuteronomy and I'm starting to think, have I made a horrible mistake? Is a rabbi forbidden from partaking in these stories of witchcraft and wizardry? And worse, am I indoctrinating my children into lives of soothsaying and divination? The Talmud notes a small detail in the opening verse of this section. It does not say, you shall not learn these practices, but rather, you shall not learn to do these practices. From this, Rav infers that one is permitted to learn about sorcery in order to understand it, but one may not go so far as to practice it. Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi of pre-state Israel, explains this concept further. A sorcerer seeks to understand the relationship between nature and the divine, which both reside in the human soul, and the sorcerer can choose to suppress the godliness in themselves in order to gain power over nature. Rav Kook says that this knowledge might be useful to a Jew who wants to understand his own soul because it helps us to make the opposite choice, to embrace the parts of ourselves that are reflections of God. The part of ourself that is B'Tselem Elohim, created in God's image. And so, according to Rav Kook, we are permitted to learn about witchcraft, just not to practice it. And this is helpful to me because my affection for Harry Potter goes much deeper than just thinking I look good in crimson and gold Gryffindor apparel. I like the themes of the books, the triumph of good over evil. I love the message of chosen family and strength through adversity. All of these seem like valuable and deeply Jewish ideas to talk about. Voldemort ignores those he deems as less powerful or less worthy, like Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville, and this is why he loses in the end. This sounds a lot to me like the line from Psalm 118, the stone that the builders rejected becomes the chief cornerstone. And I don't always come to the same conclusions that the books do about what evil is or where it comes from or if people are capable of redemption. But those are fruitful arguments. And I think Rav Kook is saying that those arguments are valuable, that we can learn something about our own ideas by contrasting them with others. I am forbidden to cast a spell myself, but I benefit from debates about the morality of forbidden curses. Rav Kook makes a distinction between a sorcerer and a heretic, someone he calls the Gidufi. A sorcerer focuses his mind on the questions of the essence of evil, but the Gidufi does not reveal any hidden knowledge. In fact, he rejects truth and goodness and embraces lies about the nature of humanity and God. We have something we can learn from the wizard, but the Gidufi, the heretic, has nothing to teach us. Because here's the truth of why I have struggled with my Harry Potter obsession of late. Honestly, it's not because the Torah forbids me to learn about witchcraft. I know I can read fiction about spells without becoming a dark wizard myself. The real reason why I've been reluctant to wear my Gryffindor t-shirts or my platform 9 3/4 cufflinks in public has nothing to do with Harry Potter and everything to do with its author. The creator of Harry Potter has in recent years said some things that I find truly abhorrent, that hurt and endanger people I love and care about. In particular, she has used her incredible resources and platform to deny the rights of transgender people, to call them dangerous and evil. And in doing so, to my mind, she places herself much closer to the Gidufi on Rav Kook's spectrum. Our Helfman curriculum is based on instilling Jewish values. And the value that we will focus on for the first quarter of this year is that concept of B'Tselem Elohim, the affirmation that every person is created in the image of God. And this means loving and respecting and valuing all the differences that make us unique, and knowing that each of those differences is itself a reflection of the expansiveness of God. This means making sure that transgender and non-binary members of our community know that they too are beloved children of God and that they too belong here. If we are to live up to the Torah portion's ideal of tzedek tirdof, it means joining hands with those who are oppressed and marginalized and speaking out when they are threatened. It is deeply ironic that so many people have learned a message of tolerance from books by an author who has demonstrated such a blind spot in her own ability to empathize. And it does compel one to think back through the books to identify other blind spots as well. Other minorities, including Jews who do not get the same empathy as the Muggle-born. How lonely must Hogwarts have been for Anthony Goldstein or Cho Chang? Are there anti-Semitic stereotypes in the depiction of goblin bankers? And does she wrestle enough with the implications of house elf slavery or anti-giant bias? And this is, I think, the essence of what Rav Kook wants to teach us. To the extent that Harry Potter books are a wonderful, engaging way to ask big questions about who we are and how we stand up for justice, then they are useful tools, especially if we're willing to see the faults and limitations of them. But to the extent that my Hogwarts sweater or my baby Muggle on board bumper sticker might make you think that I am a Gidufi, that I deny God's image in anyone, but especially the vulnerable, then I have a problem. Because that's the message of the opening lines of this parsha, tzedek tirdof. Justice cannot just be something we wait for. It has to be something we pursue, that we build together. So let's agree to read Harry Potter and not feel bad about enjoying it, because we know it's teaching us to do the work of justice, to stand up to evil and oppression and totalitarianism. To stand up to evil and oppression and totalitarianism, we must be as brave as a Gryffindor, as compassionate as a Hufflepuff, as thoughtful as a Ravenclaw, as strategic as a Slytherin. In that way, we are learning about witchcraft exactly as the rabbis of the Talmud envisioned, in order to learn and to teach. But let us read these books critically, knowing that their ideology may be flawed, and that one should not base one's entire identity around a kid's book about magic. And we can endeavor to make this temple better even than Hogwarts. Not just because we have more Jews than Anthony Goldstein. We can make this place a place where we don't sort people into categories of good and bad. We can make this a place that affirms every person for the wholeness of who they are, that asserts that everyone is indeed created B'Tselem Elohim, that everyone here belongs. We can ensure that bias and bullying have no home here. We can make this place a place that stands with all marginalized groups in their fight against oppression. Because in that way, we will live up to the true messages of both books, of Harry Potter and the Torah, to pursue justice and fight for a better world. Accio justice, I say. Ken yehi ratzon, may it be so. We continue with Aleinu L'Shabeach on page 282. We rise in body or spirit.
לשבח לאדון הכל.
לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, life and death. We take a few moments for silent memory. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. Zichronam livracha, may their memory be for a blessing. Tonight we recall the yard sites of Paul Adler, Josephine Bender, Irvin Birnbaum, Rose G. Bishkin, Henry Bergauer, Herman Kaplowitz, Miriam Caspier, Lou R. Coben, Daryl Cook, Janet Dochin, Lee Dukoff, Essie Eisner, Blanche Epstein, Eleanor Fenberg, Sylvia Foy, Elihu Friedman, Chella Gerritz, William H. Gerson, Joe B. Gerson, Ron Glantz, Amata Hayden Gleisner, Andrew Lewis Goldberg, Harry Green, Myron Searle Greenfeld, Morris Grevsky, David Grossman, Henry Grover, Francis Borden Isaacs, Benjamin Jaffe, Mervyn Kamen, Fanny Katz, Anita Katz, Burton Curtin, Alfred L. Lacer, Mark Lee, Sarah Yetta Levitt, Ann Schultz Lewis, Eva Saltz Lewis, Selma Light, Blanche Lipsky, Rachel B. Margolis, Addie Marks, Sadie Marks, Sylvia Matzner, Viola Miller, Jeffrey Mark Mullen, Jack Merland, Ted Pasternak, Burton Price, Samuel Rabin, Mildred Rashofsky, Morris Rausch, William Rychek, Ida Richmond, Joe Rabinowitz, Charles Rogers, Adele Rosenbusch, Leah Rosenfeld, Louis Rosenthal, Sadie Rosemarin, Gertrude Schenker, Ann M. Sheps, Leopold Schwartz, Leon B. Schwartzberg, Israel Siegel, Mark Silverman, Elaine Benderoff Spector, Shelley Stallero, Max Stolman, Melvin H. Tappick, Juanita G. Torres, Edward Warner, and Shayna Zeff. We rise as one community for the words of Mourner's Kaddish page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamich malchutei. B'chayechon v'yomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'galau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shmei dikudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'ne'emata, damiran be'ama v'imru amen, yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen, osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
You may be seated as we turn from Kaddish to Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon hinchilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Ki banu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim. V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava u'vratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat lechaim.
We are excited for the Helfman families who signed up for dinner, or the Helfman families who didn't sign up for dinner but want to stay for dinner, to join us in Feld Hall immediately following services. So we'll say Hamotzi together now.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
One.
I just wanted to, before we sing our closing song,
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention our amazing band, Stephanie Blue, Aaron Wright, and Starlick Williams. So glad to have you with us.
And thanks again to Scout and Noah for lending your beautiful voices to this service. One of the great parts about working with such a talented cantor is that she brings melodies from all over the world. And so we were talking about what we wanted to conclude our service with tonight. The words of Adon Olam are on page 321, but Rollin has brought this beautiful, gorgeous melody from the Scottish Jewish community. You don't hear a lot about the Scottish Jewish community, but this is an incredibly beautiful melody I was not familiar with. Maybe you've heard it. So we hope you'll join us in this unique setting of Adon Olam.
Page 321. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yetzir nivra le'nasa v'cheftzol kol azay melech shemo nikra le'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora. Ve'hu
We have one last thing that we have to do. We started this service with the psalm for the Hebrew month of Elul, and we're going to end this service by hearing this sound of Elul that reminds us to start preparing our souls for the work that lies ahead. Please rise for the shofar.
Tekiah!
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.